Hello, everyone. So my name is Akal, and with me today is Mark. He's a angel reader and clairvoyant psychic, and he can articulate some more words to more thoroughly describe what he does. But in essence, this video, in terms of the topic, is about the first three chakras. And some of you, particularly those of you who are interested in not only the chakras, but let's say also sexual energy, understanding intuition, instincts, things of that nature. This is all really, really relevant. And also, in a lot of ways, this video should help sort of illustrate how these functions work in your life in a practical way, how these chakras function and work in your life in a practical way. So with all that said, I'll have Mark say a few words about what it is that he does. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name's Mark. I am a clairvoyant psychic medium, an angel reader, and what that essentially means is I can speak with the other side. Through the guidance of angels, I can speak with the deceased, formerly earthbound loved ones, and lots and lots of other things. Yeah, and I'm here to just provide a a voice for the angels so that they can come in and discuss their interpretation and share their interpretation on the topics that we're talking about today.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. So just so we can kind of let the viewers know a little bit about the format, what we're going to do is basically we're going to bring up one of the chakras, let's say the root, which is where we're going to start. Mark will tap into angels, intuition, as well as his innate knowledge in order to sort of describe how he perceives the root. And then I will do likewise. Most of the information that I'm going to give you is partially experiential. A lot of it is also connected to the human design system. If anyone out there is familiar with that system, it's connected to astrology, etc. But just so you know, that's where I'll be sourcing a lot of my information. So with all that said, let me go ahead and let's start with the root chakra. And generically, I'm just going to refer to that as the pressure center. So Mark, we'll go ahead and what are your insights about the root chakra?
The root chakra is essentially the link. That's where the energy body grounds inside of our physical body. It is essential for our incarnation to have a physical body. And when our energy is grounded into our physical body, it will be grounded in through our root. And that root chakra is also grounded into the earth, the experience of the earth energy itself. Our body is of the earth. It is a hydrocarbon, just like most of this planet is. And the energetic connection between the earth and our body is essential, just as much as the energetic connection between our soul, our energy body, and our physical body is essential as well.
Nice. So a couple things I'll piggyback on what you just expressed. So the link with the planet. So my experience of the root, again, I'm going to reference human design a little bit here. So the human design system creates, it creates this sort of, I want to use the word dichotomy, but that's completely wrong, I'm sure. But there's this understanding of the root in which either you have an open root or a closed root. In essence, that system describes the root as a pressure center, and it's in some way linked to the adrenal glands. So as Mark described, it's where the energy body essentially connects to the physical body. Now, what's interesting to me about this is keeping in mind that everything inside the physical body in terms of our experience in life, in essence, is a pressure gradient. And that we'll get into that much further as this series on the chakras as we continue through that. But this pressure gradient is really, really important to remember. This pressure will either be comfortable or uncomfortable, right? So in the human design system, if you have an open root, the pressure is uncomfortable, which sometimes can cause one to not feel secure and safe and grounded in their own body, and hence they don't feel safe on earth in a lot of ways, because as Mark described, it's how we in essence it's how our existence is animated on the earth plane, right? So it's the pressure which animates our existence. It's very animalistic, it's very basic, and it's not something that's necessarily going to come across as a cognitive function. In other words, you're not going to think about it, right? You're simply going to respond to either comfort or discomfort, stress or not stressed. All right. So now, more specific to the work I do, which is a lot with sexual energy, the tantrics say, the yogis say that when a man ejaculates, he loses his root. The French call ejaculation la petite mort, a little death. All right. So what does all that imply? It implies a disconnection from body, a disconnection from body. And what I mean by that is that pleasure is a pathway into the body. That's one of the reasons. But what it is in a lot of ways, because traumas can cause a disconnection from our body. Like we start to leave the body through disassociation. So traumas in life, physical injuries, emotional traumas for that matter, but also ejaculation is like a little tiny trauma, la petite mort, a little death. So we lose our root, we disconnect when men abuse that energy. So, and of course, there's tricks you can learn in order to sort of lessen that feeling of disconnect. But so kind of in summary, in essence, what we want to keep in mind again is that the root chakra, if it's imbalanced, it will express itself as worry, anxiety, and feelings of unsafe, right? When it's solid, when you feel integrated, you have connection to your body's innate signals that are guiding you. And we're going to get into the guidance as we progress through the second chakra and into the third chakra. So anything else you would like to add about the root before we move on?
No, that's good.
Awesome. All right. So moving on to the animal chakra number 2 is the sex center, the sacral chakra. Anything you'd like to express about that, Mark?
The sacral chakra is our is the second chakra of our energy body that houses the creative urge. It is our creative chakra, is where creativity works from. That energy can create life. It can create another human being, another vessel to hold a soul. And that is sacred. That is beautiful. And that's what that does. And then when it's not used to create life, it can be used to create one's desires and one's connection to your higher self, how you create. It can be art. It can be so many things that we as mankind can create and are still going to discover that we can create. That creativity chakra exists there. That's an energy flow.
Cool. So let me ask you a quick question. Maybe you can sort of channel the angels for a moment relative to this question. This is going to be a little more woo-woo, and also maybe a conspiratorial question. And so I believe that the powers that be, have a capacity or ways in which they create insecurity in the world, right? So, for instance, wars. Wars are incredibly ungrounding. They disconnect people through the creation of trauma, right? So in other words, you create a bunch of anxiety, a bunch of worry, a bunch of, distortion basically in humanity's collective root. So in terms of our collective second chakra, sacral chakra, is there a distortion? Is that distortion, is there a motivation from they to create distortion around sexual energy? And how might this distortion then serve them and not us?
Oh, that's a big, deep question because there's a lot of potential ways this could go. The misuse and the abuse of the second chakra is how distortion is created. And this can involve sexual activity that is not grounded in love or intimacy or bonding. When sexual activity is not used in that regard, it can be discoordinated, disharmonious. And it can create the disses. DYS is a suffix to a lot of words that can cause dissociation. It's a creativity chakra. The creativity chakra is a channel that is best utilized to channel intimacy and love and purpose and creativity and bonding and a shared system. Because sexuality in itself innately, not entirely, but innately is meant to bond two souls, to bond two people together energetically. And in that, it creates an energetic bond of love and intimacy and peace. Because as souls, as people, as who we are innately drawn to one another for many purposes of friendship, companionship, you name it. It is our desire to form these bonds, which provide us with a deep level of satisfaction and solace and love
Mm-hmm.
and
Nice.
bonding. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So it's interesting when I get to thinking about, because obviously there's a direct relationship between the sacral chakra and the root. All these things are intertwined, and this idea that they're somehow separate is kind of ridiculous. But
All of our chakras
yeah,
communicate. They are all in a communication pathway with each other.
absolutely.
And
And so we're in terms of our explanation, though, we will divide things up. But the one thing I find interesting is kind of the idea of why they might want to create a distortion. In the modes in which they create the distortion, I think I'm quite aware of. For instance, one of the modes, let's say historically speaking, where the sexual chakra, the second chakra, got distorted was through religion, let's say, right? And is that to say religion is inherently bad? To me, as a central body organized like government, yeah, it kind of sucks. But the spirituality aspect, no, it's fantastic. Like there's wonderful spirituality in every major religion. However, oftentimes the governing people of whatever capacity have used, let's say, repressive tendencies from the past, like, sex bad kind of attitudes as expressed through religion in order to sort of shame someone, which then the shaming, what it does is it represses creative flow, creative energy, the ability to bring out new novelty into the world, not just manifesting life, but to manifest novelty into the world, which is how humanity likes to create. We are constantly creative beings. So when you distort that, you cut out the novelty, you cut out the creation, and ultimately you create people that are really good at working and just that's it. So now on the opposite side, I would say, which is more current, as much as a lot of people I know want to, I'll use the word bitch and moan about, religion bad and things like that. We also have to look at the other end of this. How does the sexual energy become distorted through permissiveness, pornography, excessive sex positivity? And all these things can be used to clarify the wounds of the past, the religious wounds of the past. But in my view, it's become excessive.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, with the excessive aspect now is now that men are whacking off the porn all the time, discharging their life force.
Right.
Once again, this discharge of life force is dropping them out of their body, disconnecting from the root once again. And so the idea here is for the individual, because again, the second chakra is animal, right? It's still animal. It's how do we transform the creative essence, the essence which can bring life into the world, transform that into essence in which we create our life, right? And through choice, which we'll get to in the third chakra. But the distortion here to me is whether you do it through permissiveness, which causes a degrading of that energy, a dulling of the mind. I will speak from personal experience. In my 20s, like most dudes, I was pretty busy with releasing, and I had brain fog, crazy all the time, the brain fog. Fuzzy, I didn't know what to do, where to go. I didn't feel connected to my body. I felt disassociated. Anyway, so
Basically, just dissociated. Yeah.
absolutely. So the point I'm getting at is whether it's very, very liberal and expressive and permissive, or if it's very, very like conservative, and I don't mean these terms in a political way, conservative and controlled, and say, oh, that's bad. the end result is the same, which is distortion. So that comes back to the individual, which we'll get to in the third chakra in terms of choice making. So anything else you would like to add about the second chakra?
I think that in terms of the religion and things like that, I think religion's very old, been around on this planet for thousands of years, and I believe that culture at the time benefited from what religion had to offer. Religion has cultivated and it has changed much over the years. Most of it has, some of it hasn't. Some's very much the same as it's always been. That's why there's always new interpretations every 100 years of new religions of all these different types of ideas. As human and mankind changes throughout the years, the religion does change throughout the years, and you do see a cultivation of that. And I think that as the pendulum swings one way, it will again swing the other way. And I think we are now seeing that the pendulum has swung all the way over to the point where you see the normalization of pornography and the abuse of these powers that our bodies currently have. It's a time for the pendulum to come swinging in the other direction. It's time for us to become empowered by our own abilities, to recognize the gifts that our bodies, our energy bodies and physical bodies offer us spiritually. They offer us so much to add to our lives. And recognizing that you're giving away your energy to a computer screen via pornography is probably, in retrospect, not the best idea for most men. And I can't speak for women. That's not my expertise. That's just me talking. And anyway, that's all. I don't know. I kind of lost my thought.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, what it did bring up though is a very lovely, smooth transition into the third chakra, because you said the pendulum, right? The pendulum swing from repressive to expressive, right? And then it has to find its balance point, not in the extremes, but in the I making choices. And this brings up human design for me once again, because this is one of the things I remember from the human design system, and the guy who created it, his name was Ra Uru Hu. Anyway, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's one of those weird names. Anyway, he said that the solar plexus of humanity is transforming. That's he used the term mutation. He says that our solar plexus is what's mutating in this current time. So that brings up the implication of, well, what's the solar plexus exactly? And so just a real quick basic word that I would use for the solar plexus, then I'll check in with you, Mark, as to how you perceive it, which is this idea of choice in the application of free will. So from that.
Yeah, I would say that the solar plexus is the energy center in our energy body that is associated with our free will. When this is tuned in and working appropriately and energy is flowing through that system well, you see the highest capacity of our free will, a free will that is centered in more knowledge than the self. It's centered in the knowledge of all that there is. And it recognizes the path. It recognizes your spiritual path. It recognizes purpose. It recognizes free will in association with all of those things.
Nice. Yeah, and so before we continue, I wanted to mention also down below the video is Mark's contact information if you would like a reading. And also down below the video is information on my sexual energy coaching program, if you're interested. So my 2 cents on the solar plexus really quick. As I kind of perceive it, again, I'm thinking along the lines of this mutation, right? So obviously, this is where the enteric brain is, right? This like bundle of nerves that exists inside the gut, which is deeply intelligent, right? It is your gut instinct. In a lot of ways, it's connected to the viscera of the body, and the viscera of the body that's going to tell you if something is good or not good for you. It's also, some of us don't have a real clear gut instinct, but we have another expression of the solar plexus, which is moodiness. It is the inherent ups and downs in life. And those of us who experience, I feel like it, then I don't, then I feel like it, then I don't. What we need to do in that particular case is to kind of find the average, right? So we sort of, other words, we have to utilize objectivity, right? So we have to be able to find our center and utilize objectivity, which is true, the gut instinct as well. And then there's a big component of faith, right? And people hate that word because faith is like non-tangible in so many ways, but faith is, that is the understanding as I perceive it, that there's more to the universe we do not understand than what we do. So other words, I'm going to put my faith in the bigger picture is there to guide me. And if I have that faith, it means I'm going to disconnect from the intellect and its dualistic function of going back and forth between this and that in order to pay attention to the, oh, my gut just said yes, or my gut said no, or I feel like it, then I don't, whatever it may be and whatever the signal may be. But the understanding here is that it lies within the body. And historically speaking, the reason I think this is mutating goes back to the pendulum we talked about before. In the past, in essence, it's kind of an extreme way to say this. In the past, we were kind of slaves, right? We were slaves to religious dictates. In contemporary times, because of the flow of information, we are able to create separation between us and those that control if we use discernment. The discernment, once again, comes back from within. So that brings up what is guiding our actions in contemporary time is not the external authority, it's the internal authority, right? The inner authority, meaning I need to pay attention to the gifts that I've been granted from God in order to, and I don't mean big guy in the sky God, right? You can call it universe, whatever you want, if you get all offended by that word, but universe, infinity, blah, blah, blah. We are given all this equipment, this brilliant equipment, the instincts and the intuition and the gut and all this kind of stuff that tells us precisely what we need to do. We just have to have faith that we're being guided, and ultimately the sensitivity, the objectivity sufficient enough to pay attention, right? So some of us, particularly if you have an open root, going back to the root, if you have a lot of pressure that's making you move too quickly because you're so uncomfortable, you may rush past your answers. And if you're discharging your sexual energy, blowing it all out, you may be so detached from the body, you may not recognize the signals in the first place. So anyway, you can see how it all fits together and how it all kind of is interconnected. What is interconnected? It's not kind of. So anything else you'd like to mention about the solar plexus?
Yeah, I think it comes back to my experience a lot with my clients is that I remind people that your solar plexus is the root of where you're, not the root, pardon me. The solar plexus is a location of the energy in your energy body that is associated with your free will. And when you think of free will, you also think of your ability to manifestation. You think about your ability to make choices, because incarnation on Earth, this is the planet of free will. We have free will. We come down here as an empty slate. We don't remember why we incarnated. We don't remember our soul's path. We don't remember our plan that we created before we incarnated, our plan on which we chose to be here, why we chose our parents, why we chose the people we are associated with in our lives. What did we choose to work on when we incarnated, when we came down here? We all came down with this, and that roots us back to faith. When you choose to exercise manifestation in your life, you cannot do that without exercising faith. And in so, you have to have faith in God. You can call him universe, source, am that I am, whatever you choose. When you start to tap into your ability to manifest the things that you feel like you want in your life, it's important to also recognize faith in yourself, in God, in the angels, and to have faith that you have placed yourself into an incarnated life with a very solid plan and purpose, to have faith in that. Because just because you think you know what you want, you have to have faith that you are going to be given what you need. You have to practice gratitude first. Look at everything that you have in your life. Exercise gratitude with that. No one comes down here without gifts. And all of those things in your life that you practice gratitude with, those are your gifts. Those are all of the puzzle pieces necessary to create the puzzle, to put it all together. It will fit perfectly and beautifully together. If you misuse your ability to manifest without first having faith and recognizing that this is all purposeful and it all serves a purpose, and we're all linked to everyone on this planet. All of us are linked to each other, and our choices that we choose to manifest will have an impact on our lives and other people's lives as well. You need to recognize and practice gratitude to solve your personal puzzle, and see that just because you want it doesn't mean that you need it to solve the problem, to create possibilities, to have growth, to have spiritual growth, and to actually be successful in this incarnation. And what I mean by successful is you're succeeding in learning and growing how you chose, how you wanted to learn and grow in this lifetime. The challenges that you chose to put in front of you to give you the spiritual and vibrational ascension and growth that you wanted are already in front of you. Manifestation occurs with faith, and it marries together. And when your solar plexus is working properly, you're going to find yourself in a space of synchronicity. You're going to start recognizing, oh, it's already here. The puzzle pieces are already here. They're in front of me. You'll start to recognize your path, your spiritual path. You'll start to have a closer connection with your spiritual plan. Even better, you'll be able to listen to your gut instinct. And that is how your angels communicate to you. Angels are the voices of God. They are designed to be the voices of God that lead you through your life, to place you where you need to go, to put you in opportunities, in situations, so that you are given opportunities for growth. Being down here, incarnated, is a big deal. Having a life is a big deal. This is a test, and they can't give us the answers to the test and expect us to learn anything. We have to take the test without the answers. That is how growth happens. In incarnation, a life here on earth is the fastest, most efficient way for our souls to grow and learn. We come down here and we take that test without the answers. That is what it is to engage that solar plexus. That's the big part of that. That chakra is a big deal.
Yep. So very poignant and prescient. Thank you. One thing I would mention real quick, just to kind of like summarize that, when I was studying a little bit on, for this video, I was kind of going through my notes, and something I wrote down was frustration, right? And this is something personally that I've experienced most of my life, because I have kind of a unique life path. So everything I tried in my life prior, when I was functioning from an external authority, and what I mean by external authority, even if it's not a teacher or a government or a religion, it can be things like me making comparisons with my neighbors, or, oh, I know so-and-so and they made all this money doing this or that. I had to realize none of that is for me. None of it. What I had to learn is that I'm getting nothing but frustration because I'm not paying attention to my gut, to my emotions, how I'm feeling, like what feels correct, what's aligning me with joy and love, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, so as I've kind of started to tap into that, I've also, physically speaking, I don't know how to express this, but physically speaking, what I personally notice is as I direct my will in the correct direction in life, as I'm tapping into what's authentic, it's not an act of the ego. It's an act, as you implied, it is about connecting to your soul, right? It's about ego abdicating its control, letting go the control and saying, I have faith. And then God leads you to your soul, which is the deeper you. We can get in all sorts of debate and definitions about what soul means, but we'll just say your deeper you, right?
Yourself.
Right. And it's not going to come from outside of you. So if any of you watching this video have problems in terms of frustration, you're not where you think you should be in life, you have to ask yourself this question: why are you thinking you should be somewhere else? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
my addition to that is, remember never to compare yourself to other people.
mhm,
We are not all taking the same exam.
mhm,
Like a moment ago, I spoke of, life is an incarnation where it's like taking a test and they can't give us the answers.
yep.
You and I, me and them, we're not taking the same exam. We all chose different challenges and different things to work on when we came down here. Now, many of us are taking bits and pieces of the same exam, but none of us are taking the exact same one. All of our energy bodies are very different from each other. There are no twins on the other side.
Mhm,
There are twins here because physically they look exactly the same, right? But there are no two souls in the universe that look exactly the same, because on the other side, we are a vibration, an energy, a light, a sound. We are completely different from each other. And that evolution of the soul is working on all these different pieces to grow and learn.
mhm,
Um, but none of us are taking the same exam. So therefore, you cannot look at another person's life and think, they have all this stuff that I don't have. I wish I could have that. Oh, I want a Hummer. I want a 12-bedroom mansion. Listen, sounds great and all, but that's not the point
yeah.
of manifestation. That's not the point. You may have chosen to have the struggles financially that you have now in this lifetime to learn patience, to learn gratitude. Maybe it's possible. Do we know? You may not be told that. The point is to take the test, not to be given the answers.
Mhm.
But focus on your test, focus on your spiritual growth, and do so without causing pain and suffering to yourself or anyone else.
Thank you. Yeah, that was good. So I think that's all I want to kind of mention about the first three chakras. I think we conveyed a basic understanding, which is first two chakras, very animalistic, right? All visceral, reflexive, instinctual. It's
Very
when that
midbrain.
third chakra,
Very
yeah, that exactly the third chakra comes in there, and you get a little bit of cognition that comes into it, a little bit of
higher
participation.
cortex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The exercising I exercises its free will. So, with all that said, I thank you everyone for watching the video, and I look forward to sharing the next set of chakras with y'all.
Thank you for having me, a call.
My pleasure. Thank you.